Hello everyone and welcome to this live workshop. I'm your flexibility guy, Coach Elia. And in this video we're about to see how to achieve the splits, okay? The secrets that stay behind the splits. And I'm going to introduce you my personal strategy called RSL, which stands for relax, slide, and load. We're gonna see what all these strategies mean and how to achieve the splits. Get ready to start? Let's go. Let's start by talking about the first letter of this strategy, the R, relax. When we get into a split, a front split or a side split, there are two ways we can do it, okay? Now, the first way is just from a standing position, without touching the floor with our hands, trying to spread our legs. Is that right? Like this. Both of course, in a side split or in a front split, okay? We try to get from a lunge position, we try to extend our legs and get deeper. But as you can see, I'm really struggling with this because, why? Because this requires a lot of strength. Depending on our body structure, okay, on the length of our legs, for example, the structure of our hips, how tall we are, how heavy we are, our weight, of course. These all play a role here, but there is a problem. Our muscles, rather than lengthening and relaxing into a split, they are tensing. Why am I calling this a problem? Because the way I see the splits, both a front split or a side split, these are positions where ideally we want to relax, right? And to achieve the floor, we do want to stretch and relax the muscles involved in a side split, mostly our adductors in this case, or in a front split, mostly our hamstrings and our hip flexors in this case. So, if we hold the tension there, it's gonna be harder, not impossible. I'm not talking about impossible here. I'm talking about it's gonna be harder for our muscles to relax and thus to achieve those positions. Why? Now, let's just take, just to make it simple, let's just take a seated position as an example. If I asked you to sit down on something, right? You may want to do it without actually sitting on something. As you can see now, I'm kind of in a seated position, right? But can you see my muscles are tensing here, just to maintain my body here? Or if I put something under my hips and I actually sit down on this support, as you can see now my muscles can relax and I'm still in the same position. Guess what? We must understand this. What's easier between getting into such a relaxed position and getting into this tensed position? Now, in a seated position is not so evident, but in splits, this plays a role. So, the point I'm trying to make is that if we tense our muscles, okay, so if we get into a split, tensing our muscles, this is gonna be extremely harder for our body to get there, for our muscles to get there, compared to letting those muscles relax thanks to a support. Is that right? So R in our approach means that we want to relax in a front split or in a side split position, and we don't want to tense our muscles there, okay? At least we want to have an option. We can tense those muscles, but ideally those muscles must relax to allow us to get deeper into the splits. Make sense? Now, how can we do it? That's the question, right? Now, this has to do with our technique, obviously, and also with the props we can use to allow that to happen, okay? To make our muscles relax. What I mean is this. Rather than starting in a standing position, opening the legs from there, without touching the floor with our hands, without moving our body down, like just opening the legs apart, which is like, it's okay. It's okay. If you see, if you have seen that video of Chuck Norris or Jean-Claude Van Damme in between two Volvo trucks doing a split over there. That's crazy, right? And it can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be done, and it's awesome. But Jean-Claude Van Damme is perhaps one of the most famous and individuals who can do a split. And there is also another guy, one of my friends, Juji Mufu on Instagram. He can do amazing splits. But the problem is that if you start in a standing position and you try to open your legs apart, that requires a lot of strength. A lot of strength. And you gotta be flexible enough to get there in the first place. These guys, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Juji Mufu, whatever, I can also do a split from a standing position. But you need a lot of strength and you gotta be able to do a split in the first place. So here we are talking about getting our splits first. Is that the best way to do it? No. Because we are complicating it. Make sense? So we're introducing strength when we don't have the range of motion yet. Can be a valuable approach, but it's not my favorite. My favorite, so here obviously I'm making my point, my favorite is to relax there. First letter of my approach, relax. How can we do it? Now, first, understand that we want to take some of our weight off our legs. So, rather than starting in a standing position, opening the legs apart without any kind of support, we want to put our hands down. Now, down may mean on something, like some blocks or a box, or on the floor, depending on our flexibility level. And as you can see here, I'm taking some of my weight off of my legs, okay? Which is making the position a little easier. Now, from here, we do want to open the legs, but I'll soon discover that here, I'm not really relaxing my muscles. There is still a little bit of tension over there. So, to make an example, again, with our seated position, it's like I'm using a box or some gymnastic bars, in this case, in front of me, and I get into a seated position. Can you see? Even though I'm sustaining myself with my arms, I'm certainly sustaining myself with my arms. But as you can see, that the legs are not really relaxing, right? I need something under my hips to fully relax. And that's exactly what we want to do in splits. To fully relax, we need blocks. We need a support under our hips to completely relax on them. As you can see, I'm sitting down on blocks now and I'm in a seated position. And this is allowing me to fully relax my muscles. In splits, it works the same. Now, you may wonder, how can I use these blocks? And what if I don't have such blocks. If you don't have such blocks, please do buy a pair. They are really cheap and they're a terrific ally when it comes to splits flexibility. To achieve splits, I achieved my splits also thanks to the blocks. I don't know if it kind of could have been the same without them, but I certainly know that they helped me a ton. Second, each split has a different technique in this case, okay? And now we want to explore how to use them both in a side split and in a front split. Now guys, I want to tell you a fun story. When I started my side split journey, I was so far away from the floor with my hips that I was using not even something like this, but higher than this, my sofa under my hips. But I immediately understood that in order to make that position comfortable for my body, I had to relax on something, to find that seated position I was talking to you about, okay? So if you want to achieve a side split or a front split, you gotta relax on something. First letter of my approach is relax, exactly for this reason, okay? Now, let's start by seeing how to do it in a side split. But before we do it, I must introduce the second letter, which is slide. This is another problem, because when we get into a side split, for example, our feet must slide to the side, because in front splits and in side splits, we have a problem, friction. We gotta slide in some way in a front split or in a side split. We gotta slide with our feet. We can't get there if we don't slide, okay? There is friction involved here. And if I don't allow my feet to slide to the side, how can I get there? It's impossible for me to get there if I don't slide. And a lot of people, not realizing it, they don't allow their feet to slide properly. Now, in a side split, which is the position I want to talk to you about first, this happens this way. People move their feet in and they hold a lot of tension with their heels. Now, let me show you this phenomenon from the side. Just using one leg, okay? Now, focus on this area of my body. Can you see? Maintaining my heel on the floor and my foot facing forward. So when I go to the side, now imagine this is a side split, right? I'm pushing my foot to the side. The heel is holding the tension here. And I'm maintaining and keeping a lot of tension here at the ankle level, okay? So I can't slide to the side properly. Plus, a lot of people train their flexibility without socks, so barefoot, or with wearing shoes, or on floors which are really grippy. Can you see my mat here? If I try to slide on it, it grips a lot, okay? I can't slide. Like CrossFit gym's floors are quite like my mat here. Like all those floors that even like concrete, they don't allow us to slide properly. And this is a problem. People don't realize it, but in splits, all we care about is sliding to the side in side splits and sliding in front of us in front splits. If we can't slide, there's no way we can get there. Why? Because like we can't open the legs farther. Okay? So guys, this is a key factor. Even though it sounds like, okay, we just have to slide. Yeah, we just have to slide. It's that simple at some point. But it's something that it's so simple that is overlooked, that is underlooked. People don't take into consideration these critical aspects about splits. We must slide to the side. Okay, guys? Now, in side split, how does it happen? We want to move our heels to the side. Okay? So, wear something slippery. I'm wearing socks because I want to slide on the floor. If you want, you can use sliders. Put some sliders on the floor. Put your feet on them and slide. Buy something. Find a way to slide on the floor you're training on. Always. Because otherwise, you can't get there. Okay? I mean, it's possible. I'm not talking about the impossible here, because if Jean-Claude Van Damme did a split in between two Volvo trucks, there's no way I'm telling you that a split is impossible to do in any condition. It's always possible, okay? I'm talking about ideal, guys. I'm talking about what's ideal for us now, okay? So, we must slide. Find something you can slide on. In side splits, this means that we want to turn our feet up. Check this out, up. And let our heels slide. As you can see, I'm turning the foot this way. Don't exaggerate with this kind of technique. But let your heel, as you can see, it's very different from before. Because here, my ankle was stopping me. Here, my heel is just, as you can see, free to slide to the side, to open my legs. I can really get into that position. Is that right? Now, obviously, when you find a position where you can express your flexibility, then, and now we come back to the first letter, you can relax. As you can see now, I'm relaxing on the fitness ball, okay? As I told you, when I started my side split journey, I was relaxing on something really high. But I was relaxing. I was finding that little by little, that position was making more and more sense to me, okay? So I could progressively get deeper there, okay? Now, this means that I want to use my hands and something under my hips in this case to relax, okay, at whichever height I may need. Obviously, as I told you, this is not a video about side split technique, but just to make it really quick, I want to maintain my feet on the same line as my hips at all times. I want to maintain my shoulders above my hip level at all times, tilt my trunk a little forward and arch my back, okay? Ideally, this is the technique I want to maintain in a side split, okay? And once I find this support on which I can relax, then I can spend some time here, just a protocol, a very simple protocol I can use here to achieve my side split is to spend 20 to 30 breaths, okay, which approximately corresponds to 1 to 2 minutes in the position, and repeat it 3 to 5 times, okay, at least 3 times per week. So let's just say this is the protocol we want to use in splits. But okay, now we got the idea. We want to relax on something and we want to slide. At first, we want to find something really high. I use the bowl here. You can use a sofa. You can use a lot of pillows. You can use an ottoman. You can use a box. Just use something you can relax on comfortably. Make sense? Fantastic. Once you get that something, then you want to use something else like the yoga blocks as you make progress. Because like at some point, the ball is just too high, right? So next, you want to use something like this. Now, I must confess that initially these things, when these things were not like on the market, I couldn't buy a pair of them. Yeah, I'm this old. So I was using books, okay? So some books. I think I used Lord of the Rings books. Very thick, okay? Very, very thick. And thanks to them, I kind of found a shape like this and replicated this effect, even though like yoga blocks are fantastic for this. Now, what we want to do, no ball, okay? So we're making progress. We're getting deeper into deep positions, okay? So in a side split, let's see the side split first. Now, I'm maintaining something behind my hips, as you can see, because this way I can really maintain a proper technique. My feet and my hips will be always on the same line. Check, though, the way I'm using my blocks. Now, I want to start, like, the idea is very simple. The closer the blocks are to my knees and the higher, the easier the position will be, and vice versa. So that means that if I turn the blocks down, I lower the blocks, and I take them closer to the center of my hips, the harder the position will be. The side split in this case will be. Okay, guys, this is key. Every time we get into a side split, we want to touch something and we want to relax on it. So, take the blocks at the appropriate height, hands on the floor or on some yoga blocks or on a chair, a box, whatever. Slide to the side, find your depth. Is it here? Fantastic. Now, it can be midway through your legs. It can be a little more towards your knees. It can be a little more towards your hips. Find your height and relax at that height, okay? So you want to find a height where you can properly relax, maintain your body there. Make sense, guys? Now, as you can see, the blocks must stay under the knee or closer to the hip, not under the shin bone. Make sense? Proper side split technique. Every time we make progress, so we can use our protocol 20, 30 breaths, 1 or 2 minutes, 3 to 5 sets, every time we feel heavy enough on the blocks, we can make progress, which means I can turn them and take them closer to the center of my hips. This is gonna intensify the position, okay? And obviously I wanna maintain a proper technique as much as possible, okay? And I want to repeat this kind of process until, of course, I have my blocks under my hips, like this, okay? And this marks the last stage of a side split because, as you can see now, I'm very, very close to the floor, okay? But I'm still relaxing on something. I'm still using the blocks to maintain a proper technique here, okay? This point, I must introduce the last letter, which is load, the L, but I want to understand a couple of things first. So, the idea is that even though I've shown you this progression here, like really fast, okay, guys, just, okay, very easy. Blocks like here, and we get into a side split, and then we just turn them, okay, just turn them. No, like it works in little steps, okay, very little steps. Takes time, takes a lot of time. Took me 5 years to achieve the side split. That's me, okay? This doesn't mean that it's gonna take 5 years for you too, but just know that these are really intense stretching positions. So every time we can relax on these blocks, then we wanna make progress. And the beautiful thing about this progression in side splits is that we can explore practically infinite variations. Can you see, like, if I move them to the side, I can simplify. If I move them closer to the center of my hips, I can intensify. If I take them lower, I can intensify. But if I widen them, I can simplify. Can you see how many progressions I can create? And this all depends on us, okay? So every time we feel that we can make progress, we should take a little step further towards the center of our hips. And eventually, once we reach the center, so for example, at this height, okay, we want to restart the progression. So this means that progression number 1, blocks really high under our knees, like this. Progression number 1. Then, take the blocks closer to the center of the hip. Progression number 2. Then, from here, every time we can cover a certain range of motion, we restart with progression number 1, but at a lower height. Okay, so rather than having our blocks vertical, in this case, they're gonna be on the lower side. Okay, we're gonna put them under, again, widen the blocks, which makes it easier, but on the other side, we're making it harder by lowering the blocks, okay? And then again, progression number 2, we take them under the hips, little by little, small increments, small movements, okay? And then again, we turn, and eventually until we're gonna be having the blocks under our hips. So, guys, can you see why these progressions, like the air, is the most important letter in my strategy, which is relax, slide, load. The air comes first because everything starts here. We can relax in splits now. So the muscles are gonna be free. We can move the muscles further into the splits positions. Okay? So we can better relax our lower body. We can better achieve the splits if we don't hold so much tension there. Now, again, this is my protocol, okay? This is what I suggest to make it easier, to make it work, okay? Find something to relax on, to familiarize with the splits, okay? So, again, the concept of sliding to the side with our feet is very important in splits. And in a side split, I want to do it by sliding out with my heels. And it can be done by turning the foot up and letting our ankle slide to the side. Make sense? And we're gonna be using the blocks to slowly make progress, maintaining good technique. Now, before I introduce the last letter which is the load. I must talk about the front split too. Okay, guys? Now, the front split works a little differently because even though it's true that we want to still use the blocks, etc., we must understand some technical differences between the front split and the side split, obviously. Now, when it comes to front splits, what we want to do is we want to start in a lunge position. So we're not starting in a standing position. Even though some people, when I ask them, okay, show me your front split, they start in a standing position, they try to go down from there, which is almost tougher than doing the same in a side split. So, guys, if we want to relax in a split, if we want to, not tense the muscles there, relax our muscles, and get into a split safely and effectively, when it comes to front splits, we want to start in a lunge position, okay? Back knee on the floor, guys. Back knee on the floor. Rest there. Now, prepare the yoga blocks, and we want to put them under the front leg. Shoulders up, guys, this way. And now we want to, again, slide into a front split. This is particularly important because, as in a side split, if we can't slide with our front foot or even with our back knee, how can we open our legs apart? It's impossible, right? So, use something slippery, socks, whatever, or I also have something here for you today, which in front splits can be particularly useful. A foam roller. Of course, you can use a slider, you can use a sock, you can wear socks, whatever. Like, if you can slide, perfectly fine. But if you want to try something different, and this is quite different and hard, you can put a foam roller under your front foot. Now, everything is going to work the same. So you start in a lunge, but this time you take the foam roller really far away from you at first, not really under your foot immediately. Then you try to straighten it, and you want to find yourself in a front split almost at the end of your range of motion. Make sense? So this is how you want to slide into it. Can you see? There's no way you're not going to slide because you're actually rolling, which is tougher. Okay? So roll with your front foot and get into a front split. This is going to give us the idea of sliding into the front split by moving our front leg into the position and stretching the back leg, which is the most important leg in a front split. This one, okay? So when we get into a front split, we want to maintain, ideally, our hips on the same line, okay? So we must press the back hip towards the floor while maintaining the front hip a little, like pulling it back just a little bit, okay? To maintain them as much as possible on one line. Okay, guys? Now, here we want to slide. That comes first. Then we want to think about relaxing into the position. Okay? So once we find a way to slide, a foam roller, whatever, then we want to think about how to relax there, how to relax properly there. Now, guys, we have the yoga blocks again, or we can use something higher, like some pillows, a box, whatever. Generally speaking, the yoga blocks work great here for whichever kind of flexibility level. Why? Because in a front split it is easier to find the correct setup because it's very similar to a lunge. So you can't really change the position so much. With a side split, the technical setup is quite complicated. So this is why I usually suggest people approach the side split once they're flexible enough to at least get into D position, because it's not easy to get into a side split. Okay, so you must stretch your adductors first, a little bit of leg apart stretches before you can enter a side split position correctly and safely. Okay, with front splits, yeah, it works the same, but it's easier. Okay, now guys, we have these blocks and we want to use the blocks in this way. Make them as high as you need. Okay, so you can turn them vertically, you can stack them one on top of the other. Just find a way to find your height. Now, ideally, the blocks must stay under the middle of your leg or under your front hip, not under your back leg. Gonna show you why. But as you can see, for example, I want to start really high. I want to start here. Blocks under my hands because I want to sustain my weight. Okay, the idea, guys, the letters tell everything about my method. R stands for relax. Why? Because we want to relax. That's all we care about. Is that right? So from here, block under my front hip, I extend my leg and I slide until I can touch it. Can you see? Very easy. Okay. As I make progress, obviously, I can turn the block. So I can use my imagination here. Again, as we have seen with side splits, we can take the blocks closer to the knee. And this makes it easier because we're going to touch the blocks earlier, not under the knee. As for side splits, never blocks under the knees. It's always under the femur, under the leg, okay? Closer to the knee or closer to the hip, okay? I really like the hip variation because it allows us to relax on something, okay? Shoulders as high as possible on top of the hips. The hips are gonna be in anterior pelvic tilt, so we're gonna arch our back here, okay? And I want to focus on my back leg, okay? This leg here, because I want to press it down. This is gonna stretch my psoas, and it's the most important leg in a front split, okay? So I press that leg down. Why did I tell you that I want to maintain the blocks under my front leg? Exactly for this reason. I want to move this leg, the back leg, towards the floor. So if I take the blocks under this leg, I'm gonna block it. Can you see? Here, for example, if I stay here, I'm gonna block it at some point, okay? And I don't want to block it. I wanna have it free to move towards the floor. So I wanna maintain the blocks under my front leg and use my back leg to find more depth. Okay, guys? Now, a protocol we can use again, 20 to 30 breaths, couple of minutes here. Every time we feel heavy enough on the blocks, then we can turn the block, make it a little deeper, a little lower, okay? And take a step. Slide with the front heel, slide with the front heel, that's the most important one, and a little bit with the back knee as well, okay? Can slide back a little, but the most important one is the front heel. Maintain our shoulders upright and relax on something with our hands. Now, in front splits, as well as in side splits, people underestimate also the role of the hands and the role of taking some weight off our legs in order to relax better. But this brings me to my last point, to the last point of my method, the last letter, which is load. Now, 3 letters: relax, slide, and load. Now, what does load mean? Load means that we want to find a way, at some point, to get deeper into our front splits or side splits. Initially, when we begin our progression, the idea is to relax and slide. And since we don't really know what to do and the positions initially feel very challenging, quite tough to maintain, that should be the idea, to relax and to slide. But once we reach a certain point during the stretch or in our progression, so when we are really deep into the splits, but we still need a little bit of work to get deeper and to achieve the final position, we may want to load it. So to find a way to increase the intensity of the position, so we had something, like if we had something that pushed us deeper into the stretch. Make sense? Now, this is why I told you I want to use my hands to assist the position. Now, let's check out our front split, right? When we get into a front split, for example, we can use the hands to assist the position. So the hands are going to help me maintain my trunk upright. They're going to take some weight off my hips so I can better relax on the blocks. Okay, so they cover these functions. They adjust my technique. I can use my hands to pull my trunk, to move my trunk as I want. And they sustain my weight. Okay, so the weight is not completely on my hips. I can sustain the weight with my hands too. Make sense? What if I don't use my hands here? Okay, not at all. I'm gonna take the weight that my hands were absorbing off, and I'm gonna transfer it, I'm gonna move it all onto my hips, okay? Now, you must understand this. These may be beneficial in some ways, but also dangerous and or not effective for our front split progress. Now, dangerous if that weight is too much, so we can't handle the weight of our own body, okay? And our muscles start to tense too much and we're not safe there. Or, in my case, for example, when I take my hands off the floor, I feel like my technique is changing. There is something off, okay? I can't move my hips into the proper position. So I really prefer to use my hands not just to absorb the weight, but also to fix my technique, because I can use my hand to push me, to move my body, to move my trunk and my legs into the right position I want to maintain with the correct technique. So I'm using them to fix my technique, to keep my technique in place. And I really do like them. But these, taking the hands off the supports, just holding the position with our entire weight that pushes onto our hips, is fantastic for increasing the intensity of the position. Because imagine you wanted to reach a stretch, right? And at a certain point, you hit a roadblock. But then you find something that can push you past that roadblock. And you can get deeper, right? This is exactly what happens here. If I take my hands off, I feel like, okay, there is something that is pushing me further. I can feel really heavy on the block, so I can eventually make progress. As with side splits, it works the same in front splits by removing the blocks and getting deeper. But as you can see, my technique always feels off compared to when I at least absorb a little bit of weight with my hands, so I can better fix that. Now, it has a place, okay? In side splits, you may wonder, how about side splits? Well, it works exactly the same, okay? Even in side splits, when we get into the deeper, our deepest, side split position, we can take the hands on the floor, or we can just remove the hands, which, as you can see, changes the technique a little bit, okay? But intensifies the position, because now I'm feeling really heavy on the blocks. So, what do I suggest? Well, it depends, okay, guys? I do think that we can't see it as black or white, okay? There are shades. And I love to use both, okay, guys? So I'm kind of illustrating you a way to make progress. I'm not just telling you you gotta slide and you gotta relax, because this last point completes the puzzle. I know that relaxing and sliding are not enough most of the time. And you know that too. Like, Elia, what are you talking about? Is it that easy? Really? Just relax and slide? Is that all? No. There is load. Load means find the right intensity that works for you. Each one of us can tolerate the side split and the front split in a different manner, in a different way. And so it's crucial for us to find the strategy that works best for us. That may mean using something under our hands to relax better, to fix our posture, to fix our technique, and releasing the hands. When should we release the hands? When we want to intensify the stretch. And this may mean like spending 5 breaths with the hands, 10 breaths without, 10 breaths with, again, in the same set. Yes, because we can change the intensity of the stretch as we do it. A side split or a front split. Okay, so just for example, if I want to get into a front split and I got my blocks under my hips, I can spend here 5 breaths with my hands. Then I want to take my hands off. Another 10 breaths here. This is going to be really intense, right? And then I want to finish with, again, my hands on the floor for another 10 breaths. This completes the puzzle. And it's one way, the easiest one, we can intensify the position. Okay? Imagine again that example of having someone that pushes you further into the stretch, okay? Like, it works the same. If you are in a really tough position, you don't want to ask someone to push you down because you are already suffering, right? But if you are in a position you can tolerate, then you may want to ask someone, okay, now push me a little further. And that's exactly what happens when we take our hands off in splits. But we're still, can you see, relaxing on something. Point number 1, letter number 1, relax. It comes first, guys. No splits without, no method without relaxing. But this is just a part of it. Because we can actually load, we can actually manage the intensity of our splits in many different ways. So one way, easiest one I'd say, is to take our hands off, okay, off the floor. All right, but that's not my ideal way, okay? I just used it to let you understand the concept, the underlying mechanism. But the way I do it, so the way I want you to load your splits more, which means managing the intensity properly, okay? Deeper, more intense, higher, less intense. And I want to manage it to make progress. Again, it's not black or white. It's about understanding this interaction between more intense and less intense positions, okay? Now we want to find a strategy to load our splits correctly. There are two ways we can do that, both very effective. First, we want to use a support, a lateral or frontal support, to manage the load on our hips, which is essentially what makes a side split and a front split a front split. Our hips are getting closer to the floor, right? So when we do a front split, we want to have our hips touching the floor. When we want to do a side split, ultimately, what we want to have is our hips touching the floor. That's it, right? It's all about that. So, managing the load on our hips means managing the splits. It's that simple. Blocks. Again, always the blocks. Now, I'm gonna show you a front split first. I'm using a lateral support. So I have some gymnastic bars. You can use a library. You can use a wall. You can use whatever piece of furniture, a table. Find something by your side that you can use to pull yourself up, or push yourself down. Make sense? Something by your side. Now, if I have the support on my right, I must leave my right leg on the back in front splits, okay? Support on the right, front split with my right side, right leg on the back. Left leg in front. Now, slide technique. I use the support, in this case, to pull myself up. Okay, so I'm gonna make this kind of resistance with my hand and with my arm to pull myself up. Okay, so down into a front split. As you can see, as I'm here at whichever height I may need, I can use my arm to pull myself up. So I'm pulling myself up, making the position less intense, less load on my hip. I'm relaxing on the blocks and I'm putting less weight on the hips. Do I need more? I can leave it. I'm just relaxing my arm, okay? I'm using the support just for lateral support and for technique, okay? Nice, straight technique. Do I need more assistance? Do I need that something that pushes me down further? Fantastic. I can use the support to, check this out. I'm pushing, okay? To push myself down. Wow. Now I'm feeling it. Now I'm feeling that something is pushing me further, okay? So I can press, okay, force it, sustain it, okay? And then relax. As you can see, I have all these options and they're all great. Why? Now that I have 2 blocks under my hips, I may need to push, right? Push to intensify it. But what if I take one out? Now, this may be really intense, right? And rather than pushing down, I may need to, okay, take it easy to pull myself up, actually. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm using my arm to sustain my weight, to make it easier, to put less load on my hips and to make it easier. Okay, I'm taking it gradually. Okay, chill, calm down. Okay, I normalize it. Okay, once I familiarize with the position, I can let it go. And then I can press again. Every time I make progress with time, I may need a different kind of assistance. Okay? Until, of course, this strategy. Why does this strategy work so great? Because in splits, both in front splits and in side split, there will be a point where we are so close to the floor, but not there yet. That is a tough moment. That is a tremendous moment for us. Very, very annoying. So we want to find a strategy to intensify that position. Guess what? This is exactly what can help us. Because by having something by our side, then we can press ourselves down. We can find that more intensity that we actually need. Okay? So I'm not using blocks because I do want to get into the final front split progression. I want to touch the floor. Okay? But still, I have that little something under my hips that I can't cover. What should I do? Okay, use something to load. Okay, now I can't here. Okay, now, okay, press. Nice. I'm pressing that part of my body down so I can touch the floor with my hips completely. And I'm pressing with my body to find that position. Ooh, right. All right? I'm finding that position thanks to the pressure of my arm in this case. Okay, like I'm using gymnastic bars, but we can use a table, whatever. Okay, the concept really remains the same. And obviously, relaxing and sliding, that comes first. Okay, loading comes just, it's something on top of the relaxing and sliding part. Otherwise, without relaxing and sliding, we can't get into splits. Now, what if we can, for example, a lot of people ask me, I can do a split with one block, but still not on the floor. What should I do? Find something a little thinner. Easy. I remember when I learned my splits, it's true, this may be really thick, right? Find something very soft and that it's also malleable, okay? Soft, okay, and malleable. So you can rest on it and it can absorb the weight gradually, okay? So as you can see, this is, I don't know, this high. But if I press on it, it lowers, it gets thinner, okay? So you want to find something like a pillow, an ankle weight, something like there is sand inside, all right? So you want to find something, you want to put something under your hips that gets thinner as you press on it, okay? So for example, this one, under my hips, I get there, under my front hip, I get into the split, and thanks to this, okay, I'm really close, but I still need assistance. Fantastic. as I get deeper onto that something, it's gonna get thinner, okay? So it's gonna sustain my progression and make it gradually thinner, okay? And more intense as a position, as a consequence of that. Make sense, guys? Wonderful. Now, this is how it works for front splits. So I have a lateral assistance. In side splits, it works kind of the same, but so this concept of pulling up or pushing ourselves down remains the same. Okay, it remains exactly the same, but the support, again, table, gymnastic bars, a rack, a pole, or whatever, must stay in front of you. Okay? So, hop, yoga blocks. Why? Because we want to relax, right? Bam. Here, support in front of me. I get into a side split. Now, fantastic. Correct technique first, okay? Then I can choose. I can pull myself up. If I want to make it easier, I can let it go, just sustain the position a little bit with my arms to make it mild, like normal. Or when I want to make it harder, what should I do? Boom, press. Wow, this is really tough. Press and stay, okay? Press my hips down. Intensify the position this way. I'm intensifying the position because I'm pressing with my hands. I'm pressing with my arms. And I could use a table, whatever. Just find something that you can use to press your hips down. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna create that pressure that we need, especially in side splits. Side splits are fantastic for this reason, because in side splits, we often have our muscles really tight, but also the position feels scary, and our body doesn't want to get there. Thanks to this additional pressure, we're gonna smash that barrier, okay? We're gonna press through that barrier there, and thanks to the pressure of our hands, of our upper body, we're gonna feel like, okay, now we're getting deeper. Because in front splits, as well as in side splits, our legs resist a lot to that range of motion. They don't want to get there. No way. Our legs, obviously our hips too. They don't want to get there. No way. So only by finding something that presses, that in a way forces that range of motion, obviously safely, with the right setup, with the blocks under, like we have a technique here. I'm not just coming here telling you just use something, smash yourself down, smash your hips down, because this can be tremendously dangerous if we don't consider our method, our strategy, the RSL, relax, slide, load. Obviously, we have some principles laid out now. So if I'm telling you, press yourself down, don't use a fucking shitty technique and press yourself down, because that's gonna be dangerous. That's not gonna be effective, because we're not following the principles. As I told you, the L comes after the S and the R, because they're more important, like they like one after the other. They stack upon each other, but it's R, relax, S, slide, and only then load. And here in a side split, this is exactly what we're doing. We're pressing ourselves down to load the position. Obviously, depending on the height, we may want to take some blocks under our hips, or, especially in side splits, when we want to find the last bit of range of motion, we may stop here, but as you can see, the hips are not touching the floor. Can you see there is still a little bit of space. How can I feel it? Oh, fantastic. I'm gonna take the bars or the support, whatever, and press myself down. Fantastic. Now I'm really pressing my hips down as much as possible, and I'm finding the deepest side split I can get. Wonderful. Okay, so I can really press my hips down this way, and I can create that pressure and hold it there. Now, as I told you, a protocol we can use thanks to this kind of understanding is staying in deep position, nice and easy, 5 breaths, 30 seconds. Then increase the intensity a little bit, 10 breaths, 60 seconds. Then, after that increase in intensity, we want to drop it a little bit, decrease the intensity instead, find a mild sensation of stretch, another 10 breaths, 60 seconds. That's a protocol that may work, okay? And we want to repeat this kind of work 3 to 5 times. Before we talk about how many times per week we should do it and for how many sets and why we want to do 3 to 5 sets, let me introduce you the second strategy we can use to load split, which is introducing weights. Okay, now I got some ankle weights here. You can use ankle weights, you can use standard weights. Most important thing is that we find a way, which must be obviously safe, for us to put a little bit of weight, additional weight, to load, obviously, our splits. Now, the concept is really the same. So I won't get again into the why we're doing it. We're doing it to intensify the position, because sometimes we may need to intensify the position. It's that simple, right? It's so simple. Sometimes just the force of gravity isn't sufficient to let us get into a deep side split or a deep front split. So we need additional weight. A partner, for example, that can push us down is the absolute best we can get. But for example, I'm forever alone, so I don't have a partner that can push me down. Okay, so I need something else. In this case, the weights are a fantastic option, always available. An ankle weight, standard weight. I'm gonna use ankle weights, okay? They're really adjustable. I got 3 kgs plus the 3 kgs, 6 kgs. Now, what I want to do, I wanna, of course, relax, slide, all of that. In a front split, let me show you what to do, how to do it. In a front split, I can either get into a front split, hop, and if I'm using ankle weights, I can put them on top of my back leg, okay? I put them there, and I can let them push my back leg down, okay? Otherwise, if I have a dumbbell or something like that, I can take the dumbbell or the additional weight, okay? Yoga block on one side just to keep my trunk up. The other weight, I hold it here, okay? And I use it to practically load this side, which is the same side as my back leg, okay? So I want to use the load to press that side down and to create this wonderful extra assistance on that side, okay? That can really push my back leg down further this way, okay? So I weight on the side or something on top of my back hip. In this particular regard, I can also suggest you use your own hands to assist yourself in front splits. What I mean is that always in a front split position, you want to use your hand, the same hand as your back leg side, to press that hip down. This is perhaps this is the technique I love the most in front splits, because it really makes you understand the trajectory of the stretch, which, as you can see, is always back leg towards the floor. So I'm using my hand to force that hip towards the floor, okay? This is an advanced strategy, of course, because you can implement it only when you are at a certain depth in front splits. Earlier, I strongly suggest you use the lateral support, okay? But when you get into the last stages of it, this kind of self-assistance, the pressure onto the back leg really comes handy, really can help us achieve a deeper stretch. This is fantastic. Just press onto the back leg with the hand. This is perhaps like for the loaded strategies for front splits. This one with the back hand on top of the back hip and the lateral support, of course. The lateral support is my favorite, guys. And the lateral support are my favorite ones when it comes to front splits. But when it comes to side splits, I do find weights really, really useful, because even though it's true that support in front of us can help us maintain a good technique, to pull ourselves up and to push ourselves down, so it's super useful in multiple ways, weights in side splits are tremendously effective, because we can combine the weight with back to the wall side split strategy, okay, always relaxing the supports, of course, which creates a technically efficient and correct side split. But not only that, it's also loaded, so we also have weights that force us down, creating perhaps the strongest side split stretch I know. So the idea is really simple, guys. We want to get into a side split with our back against the wall, okay? Blocks under our hips. We maintain the weight by our side initially. We want to get into a side split. Now, whichever height, okay? We already got into this kind of discussion here, okay? So wider, lower, like with the blocks, it must be clear how to use them. Now we want to separate our legs, okay? And once we are in the side split position, we want to take the weight on top of our hips. Now don't worry if you have a dumbbell, because if you're doing this against a wall, the dumbbell won't move. It's gonna stay in between your hips and the wall, okay? So feet on the same line as the hips, weight on top of the back. I press my hips down. I move my hips down. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do, okay? So I want to slide out with my heels. I want to press my trunk down. And I want to load my hips of course, with the weight of my body and with the weights. Obviously, depending on the depth, I may want to use yoga blocks under my hands, because I always want to maintain my shoulders higher than my hips, and I want to press my hips down as much as possible. Making progress little by little. This strategy here works great, especially because, as I'm always telling you, there is a little space under the hips when it comes to side splits, which is really difficult to feel. It's the last gap, okay? Thanks to the weight, if you really pay attention to the weights and you follow their assistance, you're gonna find that that last gap is fillable thanks to the weight's assistance. This is how I achieved my side split, because I can really feel that the weights are doing an excellent job in pressing my hips down, that last bit that allows me to complete the side split position. Ooh, and then of course you want to get out of it. So also the weights are a particularly helpful tool to load our hips, to load our front split and our side split. But they always come last, okay? They always come last. First, we want to relax. Then we want to slide. Then we want to load, okay? And I do believe that the idea now is all about combining, relaxing, sliding, and loading. And we want to do it with front splits and with side splits. Now, let's talk about sets, reps, how many times per week. So once we find our progression, first key idea, we want to find our progression, a progression that works for us. And when it comes to this, we want to find our height, the height of the blocks, the height of the boxes, the height of the gymnastic ball, whatever. Find the height under the hips in the correct place, which we have seen throughout this video, that allows us to maintain that position, relaxing the muscles. Find that height. Make sense? Then, make sure we can slide and that we are loading the position accordingly. So we're feeling the position, we're feeling the stretch intensely enough to stay there for at least 30 seconds. A lot of people get into splits and they're like, oh, no blocks, nothing. This is too tight. I can't get 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, Elia, this is too tight. This is too difficult. No, guys, this is not. You can't get to splits like this. No way. First, you're not using the props. You're not relaxing your muscles. Okay, but even though you're using the right setup, the right exercise, etc., but you're not willing to suffer and to spend the time there, there is no way you can get the splits. Our body needs time not only to grow more flexible, but also to tolerate the splits better. The reason why I can get into splits now, they're difficult. I don't show you that I'm crying inside, but it's tough. Throughout the years, I've learned how to tolerate the stretch better, to tolerate the side split, to tolerate the front split better. They're still tough, but my body and your body too, like it's something that our bodies do. Our bodies tolerate the stretches better the more we do it. I've been doing splits for 10 years, more than 10 years. So now I can tolerate the stretches better than when I started. And it's the same for each one of us. Thanks to the right props, we can teach our bodies how to relax there, how to stay more comfortable. And thanks to that exposure there, we're going to build more tolerance. But our body needs time. We can't stay in a split position for 10 seconds and expect results because we're not going to get them. We need time. So at least 30 seconds. And ideally 60, 90, 120 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes. And we want to do it at least 3 times per split variation. Why? Again, exposure. The more our body repeats something, the better it gets, both in the immediate, so 1 set, rest a couple of minutes, our brain will think, our body will rest, And the next set, the second set, is gonna be better. Not just at the muscular level, but also in the brain. Okay? And the brain, as I told you, we tolerated the stretches better, not because our muscles grow longer, but because our nervous system, our brain, tolerates the stretches better. It's all in our nervous system. It's not muscles. It's a different component. And by exposing our bodies more, we get better in the immediate, so more sets, at least 3, because we give our body the time to adapt to that range of motion. But also in the long term, the more we do it, day 1, day 2, day 3, the better we get. Okay? But at least 3 sets, because we can get the best out of our bodies. Set number 1, the brain doesn't really know the position, okay? Then it gets used to the position on set number 2. And on set number 3 can express as the maximal level of flexibility. I often go to 5. 3 to 5 sets, in my opinion, is ideal, okay? How many times per week? 2 to 3 times per week, minimum, okay? That's the minimum dose. But think about this. If I told you, gun at the head, you gotta do the splits in 30 days, gun at the head, what would you do? Do them a little bit every day or 1 day per week, 2 days per week? I'm not getting, like, we can do both. But, like, what feels more natural? Something we do often, right? Because it's something we do often, we get better at it. Too much of it, like, the problem with people is, again, they don't understand the principles. That's why I coined the RSL. Relax, slide, load. To give people guidelines. But people who stretch every day, perhaps they get here and they get kind of like, oh, shit, this is too hard, but I stay here today, and they suffer a lot. So the muscles get really fatigued. And of course, they fuck it up after some days because it's too intense. The reason why we want to relax, slide, load is because this allows us to find the right intensity for us, which is not extreme, which is allowing us to stay in the splits comfortably so we can make progress over time, okay? So that's why we want to use this method. And doing something every day feels more natural if that something is something that we really want to achieve. It's like the pianist playing every day, the tennis player playing every day, because mental skills need work. The gymnast train every day when they want to get better. With splits, it kind of works the same way. We want to understand that we can't push it to the max every day. And thanks to the rules we have outlined so far, and we have kind of seen today, the RSL, we can get into our splits better and understand better not only how to do them, but also how to achieve them more effectively. Make sense, guys? So this is how we want to deal with splits training. The last part. First, how to do it. R, relax. S, slide. L, load. Use these strategies and find the progression that best work for us. Okay? Then, repeat it diligently with the right mindset. And I hope that in this video I've helped you to find that mindset and to find the right progressions that work for you. Thank you so much. Now, guys, if you enjoyed this video, remember that you can check out my Flexibility Guy app, where you're gonna find all of my live workshops, workouts, video lessons, and courses to take your flexibility to the next level. You're also gonna find handstand progressions and bodyweight training programs inside of my Flexibility Guy app, which you can check out following the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for staying with me today, guys. Have a nice stretch and see you in the next video. Bye.